Gnomes like sex. It's an opportunity to have fun, play with toys, and relax. They tend towards homo species relationships, bisexuality, and group sex. For most gnomes, sharing in sex is an enjoyable pastime, with no more commitment or formality than sharing a meal together. Gnomes have created the most intricate sex toys and manuals, including the highly sought-after and often translated Gnomish Kama Sutra.
So that is a word-for-word quote from a notoriously ill-conceived, totally unnecessary, but largely forgotten third-party sourcebook for D&D 3rd edition, the Book of Erotic Fantasy. As you can tell from the title, the book is all about incorporating sex into your D&D game. It came out in 2004 at a time when the market was fairly well glutted with third-party products of dubious quality. Over time, it's been sort of buried, and while it's never easy to criticize someone's labor of love, there probably are times when parents should smother the dreams of a child. This might be one of them. When going through the book, you are hit with waves of emotion, from embarrassment to boredom to sheer wonder, mostly wonder at how someone thought this was a good idea. So why is this the worst D&D product ever? Well, to start with, like any good, bad movie, say like a Plan 9 from outer space, you need complete sincerity from the creator. And that's what you have here. That's what separates this from a shameless piece of current-day political propaganda, like Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel, which is admittedly awful. Just awful in a more manufactured way. There are many reasons you could put on your list for why this is awesomely bad. Here are just a few of mine. It is wildly inconsistent. The first chapter of the book is love, sex, and role-playing. It immediately confuses you by saying that it's time for fantasy role-playing to change and mature, and that this book is meant to be a serious and mature look at the subjects in an upfront manner, leaving the tongue-in-cheek or snide comments at the door. Yet just 2 paragraphs below it says, once the topic of sex comes up in a game, it can quickly turn into a sophomoric joke. And there's nothing wrong with this. A page later, it starts a new section on sex and humor with, let's face it, sex is funny. Which is it? What tone are you setting? They also go through each alignment's attitude towards sex. Chaotic Neutral apparently has a predictable, it's all about me approach. Yet Lawful Good characters are unbelievably allowed to break their vows and have sex outside of marriage, as long as there is clear communication between what is asked and what is given. Don't worry, honey. I'm still a virtuous husband and paladin. I came to acceptable terms with one of the whores down at the Dancin' Dragon Inn. Later, when they're talking about centaur sex, yes, you heard that correctly, they declare that their mating is both rough and tender. It can't be both! As often as you're left chuckling to yourself reading this book, you're almost as often left scratching your head in utter bewilderment over these types of things. Because sex in the context of RPGs is a fairly shallow subject, the book is endlessly padded out. There's talk of marriage and bonding, which provides such wisdom as, the life of an adventurer is ill-suited to marriage. Commitment and infidelity, pregnancy and childbirth, chastity, prostitution, pornography, they're all covered in a very boilerplate manner with a cheap pressboard D&D veneer thrown on them. Still, you do get occasional chestnuts regarding our old friends, the gnomes.
Gnomes are noted for creating pornography that is both extremely humorous and arousing in the same image.
They also suggest a rating system for your game, from G all the way through XXX. When your campaign is the latter, they say that sex is the whole subject of the campaign, with adventurers having sex with people and monsters as much as they do battle with them. Yes, they said monsters. Sex Attitudes by Races section provides some unwitting laughs and is almost worth the price of the book itself. Dwarves are apparently energetic lovers, known for their prolonged sexual sessions, which can last a full day or more. I suppose that answers the question of what kind of D&D character Sting would play. Gnomes cement their reputation as the adult bookstore clerks of your world, as they are willing to try anything once and are into group marriages. These lovable perverts like jokes, pranks, and lots of foreplay in the bedroom. Let me ask you something. When you opened your first D&D book, did you ever for 1 minute think that someday you would learn this information? Half-orcs enjoy sex, and they like it rough. Regular orcs and ogre tribes will, and I quote, "grape with impunity." I wonder what the new woke brigade would say about that. 20 years ago, the authors probably thought themselves very progressive. Nowadays, they might just find themselves in the same cultural gulag as the rest of us. The purity spiral never ends. Halflings are friends of Judy, as it is stated unequivocally that homosexuality is fairly common among them. Let's be fair, though. We always knew this, right? A staggering and completely unnecessary number of races are covered here. Goblinoids have cultural taboos against birth control. Gnoll sex is loud and violent. Minotaurs battle each other for a female, and the longer it goes, the more aroused she becomes. The winner then mounts her from behind, while she, and I quote, licks and soothes the losers with her tongue. It goes to even weirder places, if you can believe it. Constructs have their own section. I guess they're just walking sex toys. So do oozes, for some reason. Even undead. Yes, they felt the need to put into print that necrophilia is mostly taboo. The effects that using this book will have on your game is completely immaterial. I mean, there's a new stat, appearance, which you only use when you try to incorporate the silliness of these concepts into your game. Sex organ size is covered. There's charts for how long you can sustain sex. There's other charts to see how long you perform during it. There's new skills. There's new feats. There's classes galore, such as the Pierced Mystic and the Knot Binder of Calatus, whatever that is. There's spells from the juvenile Ale Goggles, Grope, and Disrobe to the downright nasty Infestation, which afflicts your opponent with a swarm of Lover's Lice. There's new equipment like the Dominator's Garb and penis weights. There's magic items like the Gloves of Groping and the aforementioned Gnomish Kama Sutra, which, I must confess, probably under a case of Stockholm Syndrome, I now want to actually see, if not just for how bizarre it actually is. Please, Lord, take me now. The point is that unless you are completely sex-obsessed, you would not use 99.99% of these things. The market for this book was probably an inch wide and a mile deep. Or am I confusing that with some creature's lady parts? I don't know, that's what this book does to you. Nobody in their right mind would ever wonder how merfolk copulate, or that satyrs are bold, rough lovers that enjoy wrestling and spanking. You go through a lot of emotions in this book, but in the end, despite the unintentional hilarity, you'll just feel frustrated anger for why it exists. Now, the book made the fateful decision to use actual models instead of drawings. And look, it takes a lot of guts to put yourself out there and expose yourself to many hundreds of people. But these pictures just come across as jarring and at times downright silly. They look like, well, what they probably were. Halfway decent looking gamers who didn't mind exposing themselves. But the images, they aged as well as year-old milk. Now, not all of the pictures are lewd, and some, like this one, I think are actually quite good. In my opinion, this is the route they should have gone. Hinting at the sexuality rather than giving readers a cold dose of reality. Some of these pictures are just plain silly. And some are just plain blackmail material. Others will provoke minor sanity loss. And for your protection, I'm not even going to show you what's on page 142. Suffice to say that once seen, it cannot be unseen. Some will say that this book was just a misguided labor of love. It was certainly an undeniably terrible idea. A terrible idea that was carried out quite clumsily. For a subject at your RPG table that is, in the end, best handled with as much brevity as you can spare. All right, that's all we have for today. If you like this video, why not throw a like on it and boost it up in YouTube's almighty algorithm? If you have this book, or have anything else to say on it, let me know in the comments below. Did anyone ever use this book, even in part, in their 3rd edition campaigns? If so, I definitely want to talk to you. And if you want to help this channel grow, consider subscribing to it so you don't miss any alerts for videos or our live streams, which we have a ton of fun doing. Well, that's all we have. You guys take care, and until we meet again, goodbye.
What qualifies you to be a U.S. Senator? You have 60 seconds.
Hi, good night, everybody.